We are recording week 14 or 15 to the cloud. This is part one of this week, Monday, April 22nd. We'll be back on Wednesday, April 24th to hear from my good friend, David Cutler, who'll be talking to us about his interpretations of the application of AI in high school settings. We haven't had many K-12 people in this class. I felt a little remiss about that. And when he sent me his new piece, I thought it was really appropriate to bring him in if he had a chance. He's going to talk about artificial shortcuts, real consequences, and the cost of AI humanizers. Basically taking your text or taking an AI text and humanizing it so you don't detect the human wrote it. Is that ethical? I don't think so, but there's some aspects that might be ethical. It's a controversial topic. Anna, glad to have you with us tonight. But I thought that's pretty interesting. And so it's from Phrasely. You might take a look at Phrasely AI and what that does for one's future, if you will, in our writing prowess. Jill is with us tonight. So we'll start tonight with a few presentations, task presentations. We might have Badrul Khan pop in here at some point. I see Amelia has joined us really early in Japan. Amelia, I am so sorry. I know it's really, really early in Japan. 5 o'clock in the morning, early. And so a little worried that you've popped in here, but thank you. I would like for you to maybe present what you've posted a bit. I've called up the discussion forums for week 15, and maybe you can talk about the articles a bit for week 15 and so forth, the ones you recommend. But I think for the sake of efficiency, we should go to Christy first because she's got events to go to, and she's done some work with Emily, so the two of them might be presenting first. Then we'll go to Amelia, and then we'll open up beyond that. Unless anyone has to go earlier than that due to appointment or something, just let me know you need to, take care of something. But thanks for all of you popping in here tonight. This is R678 final week in the spring of 2024. So Christy, do you want me to first call up your cafe post before you get into the task? Would that be okay?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, I'll try and do that. We just had it up here, and I think that's there now.
Yep, that is it.
So why don't you explain what's on the screen?
Okay, so as you all know, task 5 was to create an authentic learning opportunity. And one of the things that I like the most is I have a ready-made subject pool in my classroom. So just about any time that I learn something new within the courses that I'm taking, I am always trying to apply it to what I'm doing. So this was no exception. At the beginning of the semester, Emily and we decided we were going to work together. And I just filled up my course evaluation. And that's something that I found very helpful. And also I learned so much just by having someone to collaborate with, because it takes your strengths and their strengths, and you find yourself getting stronger in areas that you didn't know that you could, just because of the way that you work together. So Emily had been working on a task that she kind of went into on her side. And we basically found a technology tool that had the flexibility to be applied to both a K through 12 as well as a higher education environment. Us having very different learning contexts, we were still able to use this. So we decided for our task 5, we wanted to show how this was able to be used both in online higher ed as well as face-to-face K through 12. So my side obviously was the higher ed. And as we all know, as students ourselves, and maybe some of us as instructors or someone who just has experience with online education, a lot of students get, kind of unengaged. They just don't feel that they're connected. And I wouldn't say that I noticed that so much about my students per se, but I know it's a real possibility. One of the things that I try to do with all of my students is do a pre-course survey. So I kind of knew going into this task what their learning styles were. They told me that they really enjoy watching videos to learn. They enjoy like my study guides that I provide. They also like reading from a text and very controversial discussion boards. I think the undergrad view of the discussion board is way different than the graduate view of the discussion board. So what I tried to do is
Meaning what?
meaning that they don't take it as seriously.
Well, who's the they? Who's the they?
My students.
The college students.
Yes. Although I will tell you, I ask them every semester, you know, what they like the best, what they learned from the most, what they found most engaging. And like I said, it's very controversial because I'll have almost equal numbers of I hate discussion boards and I love discussion boards. So it's kind of like the social metrics of kids, popular, unpopular, and those controversial kids, you know, you got to watch them. So this is basically what I found. So to reflect on my learning for this, I created a proposal, and it's a lot longer than this one, or I'm sorry, I created a executive summary proposal report for my provost, who is the chair of the online learning committee. So this is just an infographic that I created from that, so much less detail, but I basically walked him through, you know, the problem of online learning. And one of the things that I wanted to do is try this new tool that Emily had introduced me to. It's called Genially, and I had not been familiar with it before. And one of the things that was a problem with our LMS is Moodle went through a new upgrade and it was just a cluster. It was so messy, and my students, anytime there's change, they freak out. So the nice thing about this tool was I was able to embed everything into one like common area, and there wasn't like a link here, a link there. It was all right here, and the students were able to click on a video, watch the video, answer the question. And of course, I used a lot of scaffolding. So when they were doing the questions on the presentation tool, they actually corresponded with the questions that were going to be on the assessment. So what you're seeing here, the top one is like their learning styles and what they voiced as things that they preferred or how they learned best. And then what I did is I actually when we started doing the discussion on learner analytics, I went, okay, maybe I could use that from ours. So I took the unique views, and that's what you see there in the middle. And the supplemental would be any supplemental materials that I put onto like a page. The PowerPoints, I provided same materials that I did so they could access them either way. And I think my students are very used to the PowerPoints because it's something that's familiar for them, as well as in all of the classes. But you can also see that the new Genially also got a lot of unique views too. Some students I know love this week 10 video. I do like an overview of what's going on for the week. Some students love it because it kind of bridges the gap of not having the face-to-face conversation in class, but others I know they don't watch it, and that's fine. That kind of goes into their preference. It's not required that they watch it, but like I sometimes will put a little Easter egg in there so I know that they watched it or didn't watch it too.
Christy, wait.
Yeah.
What's week 10 video? What do you mean?
So week 10 video, it's just my intro video, because what I did is I took, these are the things that
But your intro's in week 1. Why are you calling it week 10?
My intro.
Intro.
So
is this an intro for week 10?
Yes,
Okay.
an intro for week 10. I'm sorry, I'm all over the board here. But what it was is that we've been going along, and I said week 10 is a week that I can experiment with. So that is why week 10. So all of these were from week 10. I just labeled that one as week 10 video. So it's my intro video to the week.
So Genially is a free tool?
It's not, there are free versions, but as always, the free versions are not as good as the like Emily's an ambassador, so she's got like the very special version that she was able to add me to. So I was able to use her access, if you will, for that.
So it's important to have special people in this class.
Yes, exactly. And Emily's like the tech person, so she's got the hookups.
Is it easy to use?
I thought it was.
Okay.
And the students really felt that it was engaging.
So you
I
had
asked them,
one license and all your students could use it off that license.
yeah, it was basically, I gave them a link and they were all able to complete it within that link, and they didn't even have to set up an account.
Right.
So when we're talking about like the privacy issues and such, that's kind of big.
So this is a presentation tool or a data accumulation or infographic tool. Okay.
Right, right.
So what do we have down here?
So these were also just from that enrollment preference was something that I grabbed from and this more for my provost than anything. I wanted to know what kind of enrollment that my students prefer. They're in an online class, of course, but some of our courses are not offered in any other format than online, like this course. So I wanted to know, are you forced to be taking this class and it's online and you don't want to? So that was kind of the preferences that you had for how they prefer to enroll in classes. And then the bottom two, the week 10 preference, I basically asked them in a survey, did they prefer week 10 over the other questions or the other units? Because they all had roughly the same material, but week 10 presented it in a very different way.
So Christy has put this in the cafe in Canvas forum. So if anyone's looking for this infographic, it is there. I'm just called up the forum. Sorry, Christy.
No, you're fine. I loved this project because it basically encouraged me to use a lot of different things that I've learned throughout the courses that I've taken in this course. Like I'm pulling this from, I think it was 541, where I remember being in that course and just be like, oh, what do I do with an infographic? I don't know what one of those is. So it was a really nice, like synthesizing task, if you will.
So we'll come back to Canvas discussion forums, hopefully before you go.
Okay.
But I know you want to talk about your tasks 4 and 5 before you leave. You need to leave at 6:30 for kid duties, I think. So let's go to your tasks 4 and 5. Maybe
Christy, do you want me to share the Genially with you that you made?
Sure.
Okay, I'll pop that in the chat. And then I just put the link in so you can see what her students did during week 10. And then for my part of task 5, I use Genially. So I've been really working closely with our reading and language arts curriculum coordinators and specialists on ways to integrate technology in the classrooms purposefully that align with our curriculum, because a lot of our younger elementary are struggling with ways on how to use technology that's purposeful rather than a babysitter. So I created a whole year's worth of different games that go along with our word study program. So our word study curriculum it's very scripted for K-3 teachers that work on phonics and has some writing and spelling in it. I just popped the link into one of the samples. What my Genially does is it takes the week that they're working on. For example, I popped in week 22 that worked on ET and AT words. It is all self-check and it provides immediate feedback for the students. It aligns with exactly what they're doing in the curriculum, what they see during their whole group lesson. The first one is a sorting picture, and for accessibility, I added audio to those pictures so that if the kids aren't familiar with an object, they can hear what the word says and then sort it. They cannot move forward in it until they have them all correct. So the first one is a sort, and then depending on the week, there are 2 to 4 words that they then have to spell and build using virtual letter manipulative. This all came from a discussion with curriculum and talking to other K-2 teachers on how can I get them to have independent practice and still align with the curriculum and not just sit on a device and do something that is not purposeful, doesn't align with what they're learning. This also allows them to differentiate for their students as well. So if you're on week 23, but your student really needs practice back on week 15, the teacher can hand a QR code to that student that needs week 15, and that student can work on week 15.
Wait a minute, Emily. What's the course? Again, I missed that.
It's a word study curriculum that's built within our scope and sequence. Our
For
district
ESL
built it
students?
out for all students. It's for K3. It works on phonics. It's a very scripted program.
Well, send it to me. I need that.
Okay. It's linked in our task 5.
Is it individually taken, or as I move, is it a group sharing? We're all working on it together, or is each person who accesses that has their own test?
It is asynchronous, so everybody has their own.
Okay.
Yes.
And Risa's asking, is it free? But we already covered that. So tell Risa what it, or all of us, what it costs.
Yeah, Genially. Well, so there is a free version of Genially. There are templates that are part of the free portion, and then there are templates that are part of their subscription. I'm actually not sure what the cost is. I get the educator edition for free as an ambassador, but I can look that up and let you know.
Yeah, let us know. Put just in an email, just let us know. Just respond to one of my emails. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
we
is your
rolled
task
it out.
4 or your task 5?
Task 5.
Okay.
So we rolled it out in the kindergarten classroom to pilot it for this year, and it has all gone very well. The kids have picked it up. The teachers are really seeing an improvement just in the last couple of weeks of their grasp and their understanding of the phonics rules.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So let's go to your task 4, maybe, if you want to show us. I mean, I'm not sure if you're planning to show that as well.
Yeah, Christy, what did we review? We reviewed Genially, and we talked about just the pros and cons of that. We talked about Flip
And Kahoot.
And Kahoot. So I've done a really big push in my district for Flip in the elementary world for practice building fluency. That was actually during my January CLC Professional Development Day, where we have accountability texts and blending lines. That's part of the word study, and having the students practice reading those texts on Flip so the teacher can hear them and check where their fluency is, see where they may need to help during their small group instruction. Our 3-5 teachers are using it for their extended constructed response practice. And then our EL or our EB students, or they just renamed it emergent bilinguals, are using it to practice speaking English and really getting that academic language within context.
Jennifer has a question.
Let's see if they get stuck. Are you on the Genially, Jennifer?
Yeah, I was playing around with the drag and drop, and but then I went away from it. So if they get the wrong answer, does it do anything beyond tell them they're wrong, or what do they do?
So if they get one wrong, it'll bounce back and they can keep going. They can keep trying. So it provides that immediate feedback. And then if they get stuck, the teachers have rules and procedures set up in their classroom. They can ask a partner. A lot of them have the ask 3 before me rule as well. So I see this a lot in our kindergarten classrooms as a rotation, where a group of students are at the iPad station. And so 3 or 4 of them are working on this, but they're working on their individual tablet at their own pace, but they can work and help each other if needed.
Hey, Emily, can I ask a question as well?
Of course.
I'm on the, let's see here. I'm going to share the screen for just a second, if that's okay, if I can find the right screen. There we go. Checking out the bat one right here.
Mm-hmm.
This right here reminds me of open middle math tasks. And if you're not familiar with them, they're phenomenal math tasks that they really increase the rigor of what a math problem can be by allowing it to be more open-ended. And so this allows the user to feel like they gained some success in this. They didn't get the entire piece wrong. They only got the center one incorrect. And so they see some strength right here, and they know that they need to make an adjustment, but it's not completely incorrect. That's awesome. I really like that a lot.
Yeah, so the one thing while you're on this screen, in the sorting one, you notice if you got one wrong, it would bounce back and remove it. On this, so it's all done through coding, and Genially is in the process of improving this based on feedback to get that E to bounce back as well. But you can move the A and click check even with the E in the box, and it should accept it. And then they can click next.
Cool. Yeah, that's neat. So let me
So
stop
a lot
that.
of immediate feedback, and it allows, again, for that differentiation that a lot of K2 classes need. At least, for instance, tech ways you can use this. Okay, so for example, my daughter is in 4th grade and she's about to take the STAR math test. We also use Genially to do breakout. They're just different kind of puzzles. So same similar concept. The math one we made has them work through 4 different missions to get the band members back together. I've really started playing with this for a way for teacher PD. There's a lot of interactive pop-ups. I know I talked to Bo about this earlier, was it in the fall? Maybe, about different ways that I can use this in my own trainings with teachers to show them and simulate different things. So it really does have a big range of abilities. It's an interactive, you can gamify it, you can present, you can make it interactive. They're launching it's live features. I think that'll be out of beta in about a week. I just got access to it. It's on my list to play with tomorrow, but it is really nice. It'll give you information on how you do in live time. So they are about to rebrand this Thursday. So I'm working on a different project for 2nd grade with drop downs where they select a word within a paragraph to work on their fluency. So a lot of different things you can do with it.
Elise, did that answer your question?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Kirsten, you have a question?
Kristen, the little bit that I have done with H5P, it is very similar. This is all inclusive. We can create it and just share a link with everybody. There's no login or anything like that. So that's similar. I like the interface in Genially a little bit better, and there are pre-made templates already made, so you can plug and play essentially. In the beginning, that's what I was using was the template. Now I've gotten more comfortable in using and creating completely from scratch.
I would agree with you
Awesome,
there,
thank you.
Emily. The templates were so much easier to use. It's very, if you're familiar with Canva, it has kind of the same flavor. And just being able to have it all formatted for you and you customize it to what you want just makes it way easier. Because mine was like Emily's is very involved compared to mine. So, but totally different audiences. So.
Did it answer your question, Kirsten?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I know Christine needs to leave in about 5 minutes, so I'm going to go back to the discussion forum for this week. And the next one to present will be Kirsten. She's going to show us Pressbooks, her project in Pressbook. I think she's here to show that, right? If anyone else has a project they're going to show or thinks they might show, just let me know in the chat window. You can send me a private note. You can send a note to everybody. just say, I would like to show this or that, just so I can start getting people the order in which you might present in here, and that kind of thing. So, thank you, MJ. Anyone else? So we've got Kirsten, then MJ, and then Anna. Oh, you're another textbook. Great. And Bo. Okay. Let me get this all written down. MJ, Bo, and Anna. Okay, great. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen here just for a little bit. Where did that go? I think we're in here, but we don't need to be in that. Okay, so that's AI. This is week 15 human. Should have week 15 AI. Okay, here we go. So for this week, we're in smart learning environments. And in here, we had Amelia kind of summarizing a bit of one article, the review of smart learning article, patterns and trends in research and practice from the Australian Journal of Ed Tech, where I currently have something in. And then we had Christy talk about springboarding off my human to human post. She asked ChatGPT, how can educators facilitate student-driven interactions and enhance learning outcomes in technology-rich settings in your context? And it gave kind of a nice summary, kind of intrigued me with this summary. So, Christy, do you want to reflect a bit about what ChatGPT gave to us here?
Sure. So I said I springboarded off my human to human because I try to answer the question authentically myself. What can an instructor do to increase student-driven interaction? And what I have found is that if I'm in a face-to-face class where my students have the luxury of actually being able to speak to each other, sometimes they still don't want to talk. So I will often do like a small group, like pair and share, and I have them go to a little bit bigger group to kind of build on their comfort level. And then eventually we get to where we're full group discussion. But still, you often have the same students, and they're like maybe the ones who are a little bit more outgoing or a little bit more extroverted, or just they like to talk, and they're the ones who are still going to talk. So I said, what if I were to embrace, all the learning styles in the classroom as I do in my online classes? Because that's one thing that I've noticed is that our attendance and our participation has decreased or diminished since we started offering so many online classes. It's almost as students feel they don't have to attend. And if I run a lot of discussion-based courses because I feel the ability to apply and be authentic helps with the understanding. So, the whole idea of in this, I play the role as facilitator most often. I also want to respect and to embrace their learning preferences. So one of the things that I added in last semester was using virtual collaboration boards like Jamboard or something like that. And also our Moodle has a choice function. And what it will do is it'll allow the students responding anonymously. And so you can do like a data visualization for them and say, this is what the responses are. So for example, I've got a Minority Groups in America class that I am creating, and I used a choice activity to do a privilege type thing, and they have to choose which ones that they identify with. And then so the next week we will show that, and they can see like the graph, and then they can react to it. So it really, this kind of thing, it's just tying in technology to what you're already doing and having that ability to, help still embrace their learning preferences.
Thank you for that, Emily.
Yeah.
I've switched down over to your post. Copilot helped you. I don't think it did a very good job for answering your question.
I don't think so either. I have a love-hate relationship with Copilot. Some things it does
Me too.
well and some things it doesn't.
I
But
agree.
I wanted to give it a shot to see what it would say, and yeah, it was interesting. But
Yeah, maybe it was a different Copilot post. They were asking related to solutions for instructional designers to build in equity and stuff. And it wasn't giving solutions, it was giving problems as opposed to solutions. It was misinterpreting. But I have noticed
yeah,
that Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, ChatPDF have all done excellent jobs. It's just Copilot seems to be the odd duck so far. It's just inconsistent, I think.
it
Maybe.
does. The last sentence, though, that it put in was important. If you can scroll down,
So what is this list you're giving us?
how to create balance. So I think a lot of, at least what I hear is in the K-5 world, how do you find that balance between screen time, technology, face to face? Because especially in the K2, with K2, you really want them using manipulatives and have hands-on, especially building in math and in letters. You want them to have the base 10 blocks. You want them to have letters to manipulate. You want to have the dice, right? And so you kind of lose some of that when you create things with a digital dice, or you use Math Learning Center apps and you have them move 10 rods and hundreds and ones units around the screen. It doesn't have as much meaning. It's not as tangible to use. Some of this I felt like was more for upper grade,
Mm-hmm.
but I really like the last sentence. It should enhance and not replace. I think a lot of times we see teachers think that it is just something that can allow them to do something while they can go do paperwork, or they don't think that it's basically a replacement, and it really needs to be an enhancement. There needs to be accountability to it. It needs to be intentional, right? A lot of people in kindergarten want to put kids on Starfall. While that's great, that's not intentional. It's not necessarily what they need during the school day.
So I know Christy needs to leave right now. She's past due time. Do you have any final comments, Christy, before you go?
The only thing that I wanted to say, and you're gonna know which eval is mine, but the thing that I have enjoyed most about this course is the idea of the special topics. I don't know about you all students, but it was so nice to be able to find something relatable, something that I could just turn around and use immediately. So for me, that was a great way to make the discussion board so much more engaging. And it was funny because I was just answering a question about, because I think my students seem to think the discussion boards are superficial or fake, but maybe it's on mine. I should come up with some better prompts too. So I'm going to take that ownership, because, it's sometimes hard to think of what to ask, undergrad students, but I've really enjoyed the reading. So
it was a bit much in terms of readings for all of us, but there are weeks that were really good, and some weeks maybe it could be replaced next year. I'll find a newer special issue. So there's a few weeks in the middle here where it kind of got redundant, but overall, I think the beginning, because I knew those, and near the end have been kind of good. But in the middle, it might be a couple I need to replace. But it was I think a good idea. Kind of late innings of the game. I didn't come up with that till right at the end. But you're not coming on Wednesday because you have other things to do. So I know you're not going to be back, Christy, and no one's going to see you for a while. So we do need to give Christy some applause, but Emily's going to leave within a half hour as well. So both of them, Emily and Christy, and Emily, will you be back on Wednesday? You're the perfect person to come on Wednesday. No, you can't. Okay.
I can't. I am prepping. I have a knee surgery on Thursday, so
Yeah, but
I'll
what?
be prepping for that. I'm having knee surgery on Thursday morning.
I understand. Yeah. Hopefully it's outpatient, so you can be in and out. Yeah, I've been there before. Yeah. Eh, we all wish you well. So, yeah, I haven't announced, I had surgery in the middle of the semester too, so I'm back. I had to
Well,
stop
thank you.
running for 2 weeks, so I know what it's like. But yeah.
I won't be running for a year.
Oh,
So
God.
yeah, but it'll be okay.
Yeah, I hope so. Definitely, we'll talk. So thank you very much for coming and be the first guests tonight, Christy and Emily. We all learned a lot from what you had, and there'll be other questions that pop up tonight along the way. Bo can collect them and send to you. If anyone else has a comment or a question, just put them in the chat window for Bo to collect tonight. Does anyone have a final comment for Emily or for Christy before Christy leaves?
I hope your surgery goes well.
Thank you.
And thank you, excuse me, thank you both for introducing us to the Genealogy website, because I do think that is the definition of a smart classroom. So I think we just saw that in action. So thank you, and good luck on your knee surgery. And it was really great to have you on the discussion boards, Christy, this a whole semester. You were very active.
Thanks, Amelia.
Both of you guys, very active. I had trouble keeping up. So now can we maybe go back to that week 15 Canvas post and have Amelia explain a little bit about the articles or recommend articles that are in that week. So let me go back to that if I can find it again. There we are. So in the AI augmented, you've got a little post, and I'll go to the other discussion board as well. So Amelia, you want to jump in here and talk about this article?
Oh, this is the one that I actually just kind of came into seeing how this works in real life with the demo on genealogy, because it is the importance of having the using the tech wisely in the classroom instead of just using the tech. So I also put this in the AI discussion board because I've been interested in where AI is going. This definitely looks like a somewhat legitimate post off the first website that popped up when I went to search, is there an actual discussion board generator? And this Ivy Panda jumped up, and I kind of thought it was interesting because we can also see how this compares to my human board posts. And I also, that's kind of been a focus for me this semester, is how AI is not doing as well as humans, but also Kirsty also, she brought in that list here on the AI discussion board. She said she was springboarding off her human board post, and it came out with a good list. And so now I'm wondering how social emotional learning plays into this, when all of a sudden you thought you had your stuff together and the AI suddenly gives you some better ideas or more ideas or something like that. So I'm trying that in my classes to bring in AI, and also to make sure I'm taking the emotional temperature of the class when I do that. So this, this, what do you say, the AI post, I wanted to make it very clear that this was 100% generated by AI, just in case people aren't realizing how much better it's got since it was released 2 years ago, and some people played with it and it wasn't that good. It's now kind of, for some jobs that I require my university students to do, it would be adequate.
So I've done in my podcast show, I've had the abstract for the podcast show, that our blog post basically created by AI, and then I changed it just to test it and see what they would give. Let me click on the human to human side of this week 15. And so there are other articles here,
3
right?
articles.
Okay.
Let's see, what's the first one I really liked, and this Kirsty would have been good on this conversation because she does undergraduate discussion boards. And what I got from this article is that there is always a bit of uncomfortableness in the discussion board. It's either joking or negativeness or confusion before the discussion moves into insight. And if you look at just their outcome, that was what they found out. They coded all the discussion board posts in like 4 stages of learning. So I thought that was interesting because joking, I don't know how many people really think about putting that kind of humor in their class, and that could go very wrong, I thought. And negative comments, negativity and confusionism is always kind of seen as not a successful element, but according to this study, this is exactly what happens when people learn. They enter some sort of confused state before it actually gets into insightful.
Yes, you need cognitive dissonance. You need disequilibrium, as Piaget said, or as Fessinger said, cognitive dissonance. So you have a question there. Joking, confused, and negative sentiments evolved into insightful sentiments during the central learning stages. Is this what you expect? Have you come across this in your practice? How should these sentiments be built into learning, and how? The next article was article number 6 by Zhan, Wu, Zhang, and Kai. Smart classroom environments affect teacher-student interactions, evidence from behavioral sequence analysis. Emily, you want to chat a bit about this one?
Sure. So,
oh, you read it. Okay, great.
I did read it, but it really, let me refresh my memory. It really was, it spoke to me about what I did a lot in my classroom. I utilized a lot of technology in my classroom that allowed me to facilitate more and differentiate. And it really impacted my relationships because I really could individualize things. To give you context, I work in a resource classroom, so I saw a lot of 4th and 5th graders. But the article was, well, what did I write? I wrote something. It reduced the teacher talk. Yeah. So you had more student-centered student posing the questions, the teachers giving feedback, but it really allowed the students to take on ownership of their learning. Amelia, is that kind of what you got?
Yeah, I absolutely. You were in the smart classroom, and I may have kind of tagged on that tangent about the tech meditated classroom, which they were comparing the two. And at the end, the question I decided on was if teachers were overly focused on technology, which is what happens in tech meditated classrooms and not the smart classrooms. So now seeing this and thinking more about smart classrooms, maybe my question was more pertained to tech meditated classrooms, but they are smart classrooms too, but this article made a distinction between the two and compared the two.
Okay.
There's a third article then. I think you said you had 4 this week, right, Amelia?
I just put the other one in the AI discussion.
Okay.
So this is my last one on the human board.
Right.
And this was the game-based learning, which I thought was very interesting because I've often compared game-based learning point systems, level ups, to the educational system that we do work on a point system. We work with leaderboards. We do some of these same elements. And what this study found out was solo learning was the least effective across all 4 aspects. When students worked on game-based learning in competition or in collaboration, they went up on their measures, which were performance, motivation, self-efficiency, and flow experience. So my question, I thought, here we are with all this personalized learning, yet this game-based study really thought solo play wasn't very effective at all. So I was interested in how we're going to use personalized tutoring or personalized learning in collaborative and competitive environments, maybe.
So this is the Australasian Journal, AJET. I've been trying to get in this journal for years, and they finally accepted one of mine, but they put us through hell getting there. And in fact, they sent the article back in and said, can you cut another 400 words off or cut a couple hundred words off, after we'd been through many changes. But this is an SSCI journal, meaning Social Science Citation Index journal, and it's open access. There are very few top tier journals that are also open access. So I have respect for this journal and others that are. It's more focused on higher education as opposed to K-12 in this particular journal. The British Journal of Ed Tech, I think, is all ages, whereas this tends to focus on the higher ed ages. Amelia, you want to make any other comments about this whole special issue overall? I mean, you've pulled out 4. How many total articles are in it? Did you glance at some of the other ones and so forth?
I think there were about 10 different articles in it, and they were all good. They were actually I felt that there was something for everyone in this article, and I think I picked some that only personally applied to me. But if these didn't catch your eye, there's something for everyone in this article. And I actually thought it was so meaty, I didn't go into week 15B at all. The other one that was posted,
Yeah.
I saw some maybe duplicate themes and stuff, but I thought this was a very well chosen special issue.
Yeah. Should it come earlier? Should I assign this special issue earlier next time?
Maybe, because I couldn't wrap my head around the smart classroom. I saw it coming up. I knew I was week 15. I didn't have a definition of a smart classroom exactly. And then coming to class tonight with Emily and Christy sharing too, it really kind of, wow, that's a smart classroom.
Crystallized for you. Yeah, I understand that. Well, I'm glad that you were able to take a lead on this particular week and do this for us. I think we're going to go to Kirsten next and talk about her press book and doing a press book, and someone else has a textbook. I think Anna has a textbook. We might want to go back to back because of both being book projects. Kirsten, if you want to jump in.
That sounds great. Thank you. And thank you for letting me present next. I also can't stay too late. I have a 1-year-old daughter who will need to go to bed at some point. But thank you. I chose to do a press book because I have a lot of experience in OER and open educational resources. My institution actually went from 0. We didn't even know what OER meant in our online college, but we're in the College of Graduate and Professional Studies, which is where all the online classes take place. We went from 0 OER to we are now, and that was in 2019 or 2020. And now we have over 200 courses that have OER or free resources. So it's been a huge initiative within my team. We find it's important, not just for students to have lower cost materials, but also for developing classes. Make sure when you're developing a class, you can be more flexible. You're not designing a course around a textbook. You can design around the resources and the learning outcomes of the course. So I have never created an OER book. I have experience with OER, but I never created a book. And so I thought this would be a exciting challenge. I only have a few chapters done because it's actually going to end up being 8 chapters. And I'll share my screen here.
How long does it take to do a chapter?
It took a long time.
For each chapter,
yeah, it depends on the length of the chapter. One of them, I actually split out 2 based on some feedback from my team. I had one really long chapter, and then I ended up breaking it into 2 chapters. But it's taken a lot of time because I'm trying to be really thoughtful about this. So that what this book is going to be is actually for educators. So at my university and my college, I work with a lot of faculty who are teaching international students. Our international student population has over tripled over the last few years. And so one thing I think is important is that we are working with a lot of adjunct faculty who don't have a lot of experience teaching interculturally. And I feel like that can put them at a disadvantage, and it can put the students at a disadvantage if they don't understand the cultural differences. A lot of them come from really great industries, have a lot of industry experience, but they don't have as much teaching experience, and they may not have as much cultural experience. So the book that I am writing is a guide for faculty in higher education teaching across cultures. And I'm hoping to use it as a resource not just within my university, but across other universities. So this is what the OER book looks like from the public view, I guess you would say. It's not publicly accessible yet because it's not done. But this is what it would look like from the public view. When you click read book, it then takes you to, you can see the table of contents. So the way I've designed this is there's an introduction, and then there's 3 parts. Building the foundations for culturally responsive teaching includes 2 chapters, and that's the rise of online and international higher education. So this guide is specifically for online faculty and online teaching interculturally. And then cultural considerations in online learning. Part 2.
Why don't you click on the rise just to show people, you know, what that looks
Yeah.
like.
So this is what then the first chapter looks like. I've included a chapter overview for each of the chapters. So then it goes into the growth of online and higher education with some statistics, and I included some trends from opendoorsdata.org. That's something interesting that I've learned, that, you know, I'm learning how to give proper credit and references, and working with Palni, and they're the ones who gave me access to Pressbooks. Working with them, you know, I wasn't exactly sure how to cite sources and can you use, because a lot of this is I've written some, I'm remixing some, so I'm finding it from other sources. I'm also using scholarly articles or websites. So there's a lot of different things going on in here. So I've asked them to, you know, is the referencing and the attribution correct? And that's something that I've been learning along the way.
So IU has a license that I think anyone can use Pressbooks for free, but you decided to go with Palni. Is
So
that
this is Pressbooks. It's through Palni
Okay.
Press. We work with Palni a lot, and they gave us free access to Palni at our university.
okay? And Risa has a question for you.
Yeah. Is it in the chat? Sorry.
Risa?
Yes, yes. I just asked, is it accessible at the moment or not exactly now?
It's not yet, only because I'm not done. So it's going to include, luckily Dr. Bonk could only ask for 2 chapters for this class. I kind of bit off more than I could chew, and it ended up being 8 total chapters. And so I have a few chapters completed, but I don't have it completed yet.
So what do you think when it will be accessible?
I would love to have it done this summer. That would be my goal,
Oh,
to get it completed this summer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank
Of
you.
course. Yeah, so chapter 1 is done. It really just talks about, you know, data supporting that online education and international education are increasing in the United States. Chapter 2 goes into cultural considerations. This chapter is pretty long. There's language considerations, Hafid's cultural dimensions, and this goes into each of those cultural dimensions. And then Hall's cultural variants. And some of these images I created myself. I created this one in Canva. This one, though, was an OER image that I used. And actually, also for the Pressbook cover photo, I actually found that was an open image too, that I found on an open image website. So I have, Palni gave a lot of access to a lot of different resources to use, which was great. They've been a great resource for me. So I was going to show you on the back end what it looks like. So when they gave me access, this is what it looks like from the building standpoint. So you can add front matter. You can add your chapters throughout here, add resources. This is where you kind of build the book. So if I go into the introduction, I go to edit, this is what it will look like. So you can see there's a lot of different features that you can include. I thought about including, I've seen some OER books include H5P. So some of these have like self-reflection questions at the end of the chapters. And I thought about putting those into a more engaging type format, maybe an H5P or something like that. I haven't gotten that far. So they're just down here as questions. You can change the font, and there's a lot of different ways to edit the design of the class. It shows you each time it's been made. You can allow comments. Under book info, this is where you can put, you know, titles, a lot of different things, contributors. This is where you put your cover book or book cover. Same with the appearance. You can choose kind of how you want it to look. As you can see, this was the way mine looked, but I could change the theme to have any type of design look that I would want it to have. And then you could, and I actually exported the book into a PDF format to upload for the assignment. So you can actually download it as a PDF, which is a great option as well. You can add users. So I do have, you can add users, like I added Dr. Bonk so he can access it. It's not available yet, so you can add users as you're working through it. And then there's, other types of things, dashboards and things like that you can use. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions though, but that is a quick overview of my press book.
Ambitious.
Too ambitious. Yeah, I didn't get it quite finished.
That happens.
You
Questions, go ahead.
You said that this has been an institutional push. So how are you all now? I mean, do you have like a peer review process? Are you writing in teams? Is it just a professor undertakes something that's in their area of specialty? Like, how do you organize all of this?
It's a really good question. So we started, like I said, I think I mentioned like 2020, around 2020. So my institution's in Indiana. It's a small private. It's Trine University. Probably many people haven't heard of it. But it's a smaller university in Ingle, Indiana. And in 2019 or 2020, he was the VPAA at the time, Dr. Shannon. He brought this initiative to Trine. And he was my supervisor at that time. And he is now the president of the university and is actually still my supervisor. But he brought this initiative to our team. And he really brought it to our team because he created an OER committee on campus to build buy-in across campus. But he thought that the college that would probably have the most success in buy-in was the online college. So he brought it to our team to really spearhead it. And we were the ones that kind of took it and went with it. We do have others on campus who have written books, but it definitely hasn't grown to the number that we have grown it in the online college. What we did is we started really small. We just started with a few faculty who were interested, and we really just encouraged them to just find an OER book and use it or remix it. Just don't, try to go write a book. We really hadn't gotten to you're going to write a book or do anything like that and I would say until about 1 or 2 years ago. And then we started having faculty who had been experienced in finding OER resources, then saying, you know what, I think I could probably write an OER book. I could mesh all these different things together and add my own thoughts. So it's definitely taken time to get them to the point of I'm comfortable enough now to ask to write a book. It started as here, what's the course you're teaching? Let's start with some courses that we know we can find resources. And then we'll find those resources and we'll give you those and you can use those for your class. So we have a development team that helps as well, faculty interested. And we actually do a scavenger hunt with all faculty. So any course that's going to be developed online, faculty developers have to go through a scavenger hunt. So that forces them to look for OER material. So they might say, nope, I'm not interested. I want to use this book that costs $500. And I've always used this book. This is what I'm going to use. When we say, okay, that's fine. But first you have to find OER materials and show us like what you can find. Just go out there and explore. So that's the very first part of the process. Then they start exploring and they say, oh, and part of that scavenger hunt is they have to put in there the cost of that book that they want to use. And that a lot of times they're really surprised. They don't even know how much their book costs. They have no idea because they get it for free as a resource, right? So they have no idea how much that textbook costs a student. And then they're like, okay, so this book's $400 and wow, there's actually some really awesome resources out here that haven't been created by publishers. They've actually been created by educators like me. So I feel like that's been a great way to build buy-in.
Kirsten, do you attend conferences related to OER, like Open Ed or others that you might recommend to people to consider?
Yeah, Open Ed is one. I presented on that. I presented at Open Ed a few years ago.
I think it's in Rhode Island next time.
Yeah, and you can. I actually presented virtually, so you can attend virtually too.
We did too.
You can go in person. And Palney's been a great resource. I don't know if Palney is Indiana specific. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they've been a great resource. They've actually come and they will come to institutions and present. So they've also been a great resource for us. They've come a few times to present to our faculty and just help us spread the word. OER Commons is also a great resource.
Emmanuel has a question for you
Yeah.
before Bo. Emmanuel.
Yeah, so Christian, this is very interesting. I also wanted to write a press book. I had some ideas that I wanted to share, but the challenge that I had was like I was not getting too familiar with how I should start with the entire thing. What the first thing I should do? So, could you tell us about how, if you want to write a press, what's the first thing you should consider?
The first thing, well, obviously, like what you want to write about, and then research some resources. Is how, are there a lot of resources out there? I think some subjects are harder to find content still because it's still being created. If you're teaching a psychology, intro to psychology, it's going to be very easy to find OER resources. If you're teaching an advanced engineering course, it might be more challenging to find resources. That's something we've learned along the way as well. We might have faculty who are interested, but there's still not enough out there yet, and they're not comfortable writing. But when I started writing, I did reach out to Palni, and they were the ones that actually gave me the Pressbook account and as a free resource, and allowed me to have access and create the book within there. And they're also great with, if you ask them questions about, how do you do attributions, or how do you do references, or how can I design the book, they can answer a lot of those questions as well. So I've relied on them a lot as a resource in creating this book.
You might want to take the sharing off here, just so we can.
Yeah.
You can always put it back on.
No problem.
IU does have a license, as I mentioned. Did anyone go to the speed dating with technology event? They probably were showing press. I know they were showing press books at that. So if there's another speed dating event, I recommend signing up because you'll find a lot about press books. Emmanuel, did that answer your question?
That's clear. Yeah, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned that IU have a license for that, so I'll try and see if I can join that group and learn.
Emmanuel, I dropped a link into the chat already, so you can access the Pressbooks software or platform with your IU account. Okay.
Oh, okay. That'll be great. Thank you very much.
And Risa's question is a lot like mine. Risa?
I just asked, I'm not familiar with the copyright. My country is not the member of copyright universal global copyright. For this reason, I don't know which images I'm allowed to use, which resources I can include in. For example, if I'm going to write or publish a book in this press book, I ask, did you have any concern about copyright when you use other resources or not?
I have not, only because I guess I lied. I didn't in terms of using the OER materials, because I've made sure to use different OER websites. OER Commons is a great resource where you can find a lot. There are other resources out there too, and I'm happy to share those with the class if they want those after this. And even, there's websites that have books, but not even just books, videos and images as well. Mine was when I was using articles. So scholarly articles or websites was my question, how to properly cite those. But what I found from Palni, what the recommendation was from them, is to cite them like you would anything else. Give proper attribution to them, proper reference to them, just like you would anything else. But in terms of OER materials, if it is under a certain license, and Palni and OER Commons and other Creative Commons do a good job of explaining how those licensings work, you can actually copy and paste word for word the information and use it as your own. So you can reuse it. By reusing, that means you can use word for word as it is. And there's different licenses even within the OER world of how you can use the information. And each of those licenses is listed under each OER resource, and then you have to look at how you can use them. So they make it pretty clear on how you can use it, as long as if you're using OER resources, once you access that resource, it will have a license, and generally you can click on that link and see what that license enables you to use it for.
So
what is exactly this OER? Bo kindly put or share the link, but I'm not sure what is exactly OER.
OER is Open Educational Resources. That's what it stands for. And it's openly licensed materials.
So
Hang
you
on a
mean
second.
created.
Before
mean
Emily
it's
goes,
okay.
Emily, I know you need to leave. Maybe she's just left. Do send your stuff to Bo, and we'll have Bo collect everything. So
Okay,
instead of doing
thank
it
you.
one at a time, yeah. So thank you, Emily. Again, let's give her a round of applause. I'm sorry to cut Risa and Kirsten off. Just okay. So go ahead.
Sorry. Bye.
No, I just sorry, I just asked. You mean everything that we take from this OER, it is okay? Am I right?
Depending on the license. Yep. So it will have, each one has a different license and how you can use it. And some of them you can use completely without any, other than you have to reference it. But others, there's a certain way they don't want you to change it. So in some, you can change it. You can take the text and you can add to the text, and you can move this text down there and move that text up there and add stuff in between. And others, they don't want you to do that. They want you to keep it as it is. So it depends on the license. All of it is openly accessible to an extent, I guess I would say. And Anna, you're writing a book. You might have more to add to that.
Yeah, I just mentioned in the
Thanks.
chat that Pressbooks also allows you to specify your own type of license for whatever it is that you're writing as well. So just as the other resources have their levels of license, you can also have yours. Yeah, Jennifer, I will show it in a second when Kirsten's done kind of doing her presentation. So thank you. Yeah.
So Kirsten, you mentioned that you learned about copyright, about citing references. So I'm assuming there are guides within Pressbook to kind of train you in this, or you watched a video about it or something like that.
I've actually been emailing with the PALNI representatives. Yeah, that's who's been guiding me and answering a lot of my questions.
So they were
And
responsive,
it is,
actually.
so PALNI is the Private Academic Library Network of Indiana. I thought they were Indiana based. So if your institution is in the state of Indiana, they will come and present at your institution. I don't know if they go outside of the state of Indiana, but they've been a really great resource for us within the state of Indiana to help build awareness and to help guide educators as we're learning more about OER.
That's what I was encouraged to do, as well as to talk to our IU representatives, the Center for Teaching and Learning.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So you were trained.
I just hopped on the PALNI site to see what institutions they were affiliated with here in Indiana, and IU was not one of them, at least not listed on their site.
Because we probably have our own training and our own license, probably that's why. So you learned a lot, Kirsten, is clear, and the libraries are helpful. So Sunday, as my visiting scholars know, the public library in Bloomington here is sponsoring TEDx Bloomington, 4 o'clock, and it's free. If anyone's in Bloomington, want to go to TEDx, or if Bo wants to come down from Lafayette, it's free tickets. We should probably thank Kirsten for this project and getting us thinking about our own book projects in the future, eh? So thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
Thanks for jumping. I know you need to leave for a 1-year-old at some point here. So thank Kirsten for all her contributions this semester as well, not just tonight, but thank you very much. Yeah. Anna's going to talk about something similar. So what do you have for us, Anna?
Yeah, I would say I have a Pressbook, something similar, but not nearly as impressive as Kirsten's, because mine is not research based. So if it's okay, I will share my screen to show what I've done. So as MJ and Jennifer know, I work on the Bloomington campus as an academic advisor in the Luddy School. The three of us did a project last semester, a needs analysis for the class we were taking. So I think they're familiar with my department, but essentially we have an undergraduate advising staff. We have
a couple of thousand majors. And recently, IU has decided that first year students should be directly advised by their major rather than having some time in an exploratory unit. Here it was called University Division. So luckily, Luddy has had experience with that because we started doing that about 2 years ago. And so we've been thinking for a while how best to welcome those new students and get them the information that they need. And certainly having things online or different technical resources isn't nearly all of it. But I think we found that having it all put together and having an easy way to share things is definitely one part of the puzzle to help students understand, because, you know, I'm sure, again, as IU students yourselves, you probably realize that a lot of the sort of business of being a student is not very centralized necessarily. We have a lot of different systems, a lot of different places to look for information. Schools sort of do things in different ways depending on, you know, what they or how things, you know, what they've decided to do. So yeah, students, it's really hard to understand how to navigate things and get used to the environment here. So that's part of what this attempts to do. The other part that I wasn't able to really get into here was sort of the student life and learning and support aspect of it. I think there's a little bit of that in here, and we intend to add more. But yeah, I think at this point, this is sort of the nuts and bolts. We've got new students coming in about 6 weeks. So we need to have something to provide to them. So, incidentally, previously, we had a Canvas course that we put this sort of information in. And I think that we found that it wasn't very well used. The interesting thing about a project like this is that there is no incentive for students to have to use it. We aren't instructors, we're not giving a grade, there's no points for understanding this information. So really having a Canvas course with it was useful in some senses, like we could put little quizzes in there and ask the students to complete them, and a small percentage of them would. But mostly it just served as an information repository. And so what I like about Pressbooks is that I feel like it does that in a more readable and understandable way. So you probably saw there what the cover looked like. I made that in Adobe. And then these are just sort of, I got my contents here. So we have all about Luddy, and we talk a little bit about the students. The academic advising, so this is coming from the academic advising office. So I think one of the main objectives is that students need to understand what academic advising is and what their interaction with us needs to be. So I wanted to put that front and center and make it very clear how that works. And so I will, you know, this, and there's much, I mean, obviously the text is so much more simple than what Kirsten's was. And that's because this is a guide for undergraduates, and we're just wanting to get the information to them as easily as possible. So if we have meeting your academic advisors, we've got the different folks here, and we've got links. Again, something I love about Pressbooks is that it works basically like a website. It's anyone who's familiar with WordPress. It's very much like a WordPress environment to develop this. And so we can put links, we can put tables, we can put all sorts of design elements. They have nice little things, you know, for instance, to mimic a textbook, you have the ability to put things like key takeaways. So it's, you know, can be sort of an offset, you know, feature thing as you might have in a textbook. Or, and this is, you can put your own graphics in there. So this is one that I made. We have tech students, and, you know, of course, so the gaming theme is pretty heavy in our area. So we, you know, kind of, and really it was those kinds of design elements that took some of the most time. But yeah, we've got a link here to how to make appointments. I'm looking for a different, I know I have a different offset in here. Here's another key takeaways. Here we go. Yeah, so they have different colors to indicate different kinds of functions of information or things that you want to offset to really highlight. These are just sort of pertinent question kinds of things. They have, if you want to do examples of things, you can also include videos. So we have a YouTube video, public domain because it's from the university. But yeah, so this was, I think it's going to be a good way to organize the information. I think I was more concerned about sort of the organization and the easy access to information. So our plan is to, once this is fully developed, probably, make a QR code, put it everywhere, get the new students used to it, get the existing students used to it. And then any students who join our school during the year, that would be an easy thing to sort of say, okay, do you want to know about how things work at Luddy? Here you go. So yeah, that's the idea behind it. I created things like infographics in Canva, so students can understand a little bit more. We're going to have some breakout areas for the different majors, just to sort of give a little bit more specialized content for certain majors. But yeah, we're hoping this will be something that will be heavily used, I hope, or at least maybe used with the idea of kind of just in time information. That's a big goal, I think, of academic advising, is to have the information there when the students need it. So I hope that's what this will do. Yeah, so any questions so far? I see something in the chat. Oh,
Go ahead, Bo.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Amelia.
I was just going to ask as well, is this able to be embedded into a website then as well afterwards, or how does that work? Like, or an LMS?
Good question. Yeah, I had forgotten about that. That from what I understand, this can be embedded into Canvas. So, it might be something that, because the advantage of Canvas is that students are on Canvas all the time. They see their courses. So if we were to embed this into the Canvas course, then it would, maybe sort of a double strategy there where we've got it on the web. I've made it public already because like our orientation's coming up. We're getting ready to go. I think it's June 3rd or something is when it starts. So I've already made it public, but I think having it on Canvas might be another place, a good place to access it.
It looks really good, by the way. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's, again, it's, a lot of it is more design elements rather than Kirsten's, which, is actually more about the content and about the research. I would love to do something like that these days. And I also, there were other, like for instance, other units around campus maybe have Canvas courses or things like that, reminded me to include certain information. But yeah, really, this is ours, so I try to use plenty of graphical elements and different things. And I want to continue to do that. I know students are a lot of times confused about, for instance, the structure of our degrees. So I think having some infographics about like what are the components of your degree might be good. Something that does concern me is I want to make sure that everything is accessible. I know some of the infographics are images. So I either tried to put some information behind them, or I tried to make it so that that information was not crucial and it was decorative. So that is something, when you're doing a more design oriented book like this, that you have to consider that. But yeah. So any other questions about Pressbooks? IU was super helpful with this. I went to a training a couple of weeks ago that actually the Indianapolis campus did, their Center for Teaching and Learning, and an introduction to Pressbooks. They gave us the information about who to talk to if we had questions, and the whole process was very simple, especially as someone who had previous interaction with WordPress. So yeah, it was. I'm surprised that that there aren't more of these made for various reasons at IU, both academic and for just, I mean, other purposes, administrative purposes like this one. We found out that a lot of them were started in Canada. I guess Pressbooks kind of got really popular in Canada. So when you look on the sort of open access to Pressbooks, you see a lot of Canadian ones. But yeah.
So MJ has a hand up or two hands up. Before MJ, this is really fascinating what you've done. And Tiana is in my other class, and she's working with master's students.
Mm-hmm.
Is she doing a similar project? Or
for the master's students in our school?
Yeah, is it a press book or is it something else?
I'm not sure. This is one of the things about our school is that, I think each of the different units, we sort of do our own things to sort of support students. And so we don't really do a whole lot with the graduate office just because we're the undergraduates.
Okay.
There's some crossover there, but she might be. Tiana's a colleague of mine in student engagement.
Yeah. So can you take off the sharing? Just I sometimes my eyes go on me.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
So much, yeah. We're looking at one screen or all screens. So any other questions for I guess MJ has a question.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bunk. Awesome job, Anna. I think it looks really great, and Kirsten as well. It's great to see these uses of Pressbooks. I was curious about it, and I like looked into it a little bit for myself, and then I got intimidated and I went a different direction. But I was curious if, especially Anna, your use case, it reminds me of there are some tools that I've used just and that I've come across in my work life. One is called Page Tiger and one is called Turtle, but like there's some like Turtle with like fewer vowels in it somewhere. It's and they're both like kind of like interactive PDF builders. So I'm trying to remember how they like kind of brand themselves, but it's just to make like more interactive, I guess, PDFs. And I was wondering if you had experience or anyone on this call had experience with those types of tools and what sort of you saw the benefits of using the like interactive PDF builder, like book builder in those ways versus the Pressbook, more of like a an academic focused tool.
Yeah, someone mentioned Turtle last week. It might have been Bo. I'm not sure who it was. It wasn't you, Bo. So maybe Anna has used Turtle or the other one.
So I haven't used either of those. So I've used Canva a little bit and tried to figure out their process of converting things to web pages, for instance, and that did not go well. And then I also tried, or I've developed a few interactive forms just on Acrobat. And that wasn't an easy process either. I've been kind of like working to make an interactive form on Acrobat for quite a while. I've also worked, this is more of an online thing, not a PDF, but I've also worked a little bit with Fireform here at IU. So that takes care of some of the online forms that you might, experience, like if you need to submit a question to the library or some of the things that we do as students to submit information to the IST office. And that has not been easy either. But I do think online forms though would be really helpful. That's one of my hesitations in using a Pressbook versus using the Canvas or the Canvas site, is that Canvas is pretty easily has sort of a back and forth where you can send things to the instructor and they're notified of it, but students weren't doing that a whole lot. So yeah, I would say as far as just like if you're thinking of more of like a static book or something like that, or very little interaction, to me, I thought Pressbooks was pretty intuitive. I had a little issue with trying to figure out sort of the chapter and section structure and moving things around from one thing to the other. But as far as like the interface itself, it was very similar, even similar in some ways to the discussion posts that we do in Canvas. Like it wasn't little bit more difficult than that, but I liked it. So I would say probably ease of use. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful to know as well, that it sounds like maybe there wasn't as much, as many like customize it wasn't as customizable necessarily with, or like in terms of the like formatting. Is is that what you're
Oh,
saying?
impress books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are. I think Kirsten was able to show some of the different uh, uh, formats that you can use in the different themes, but it really isn't. There really isn't a huge selection of themes. The like some of the graphics and stuff were things that I've used to try to carry themes throughout the chapters, but really all of the chapters kind of look the same on a theme. So for purposes of this, like I wanted to make each section distinct, and I kind of had to do that myself. The themes weren't super different.
Okay, okay, cool. That makes sense. Well, it looks
Yeah.
really great. So it
Well, thank
appears
you.
like there was a lot of customizable options because of how you did it, but that's helpful to
Yeah.
know. So thank you.
Well, and I will say that that means a lot coming from MJ, because she and Jennifer, again, helped me with the needs analysis of my office last semester as part of a project in our class. So thank you, MJ. Appreciate that.
Of course.
So MJ's next and then Bo, but I want to make sure someone else does it. Those would be the last two unless someone else has something to present. So is anyone else going to be presenting anything? Before MJ, I just wanted to say a little reflection here on all these so far. It's kind of apparent that these ending tasks are more hands-on, trying new technologies out, and the midterm tasks are more reflection on the theory and the research in the field. Can't remember if I intended, I probably did intend it that way, but I'm glad to see some new tools, some tools that I already was familiar with, some new tools I haven't heard. And I'm sure all of you are taking notes on some of these things that you might want to go and take a look at yourself. And so it might be advantageous for this class to post a link to final projects, even if you're not presenting tonight. In the week 15 discussion, or maybe I could create a new link, or in the cafe. But we'll talk after. We'll just create something in Canvas so everyone can post like the link to their press book or the link to this or that they've designed. I know some people aren't ready yet to present. They might not even be done yet, and that's understandable. But you will be in a couple of days if you're not already done. And so you're probably going to want to share it, or and let other people explore it. So let's try and do that as a final kind of memory for this class. So MJ, you're batting cleanup for the students in this class, and then we'll let Bo as my TA go last, unless someone else wants to jump in. So MJ has been working real hard because she's been sending me notes on her projects, trying to make sure that they're in on time. So MJ, what did you do?
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bonk. So hi everyone, I'm MJ. I use he, him pronoun. Um, and it's interesting, Dr. Bonk, that you mentioned that other folks, or that there's a trend towards like this final project being like a more testing out or a creative moment. That was not directly the case for me. I went in the direction of a paper, but I did feel a lot of like creative energy while I was doing it. So maybe there's that. So
That's great. Actually, you need those moments. That's what summer
yeah.
is for me. Yeah.
So I had some slides, but I thought instead of just like looking at the words, I would just share with you the images of some of the reports that I looked at.
Why
Just
don't you
to,
go ahead? You prepared slides. Show us a couple anyhow,
okay,
just so
okay,
we can get the sense of where you are, and then go ahead and then show the other. Yeah.
okay, that
Just a
sounds good.
few. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Uh, let's see. I'm kind of out of practice at sharing slides. I'm going to do it, but it's just, I used to be doing this like all day, every day. And then,
Right.
okay, here we go. So, I was looking, something that's been of real interest to me is ethics related to AI. And, especially as we have ed tech and AI colliding. Um, so I looked at a report that was from the Office of Educational Technology within the U.S. Education Department, which was, and they wrote about the like AI and teaching and learning and the future of teaching and learning. And this was early on in the report where they defined ed tech. And I was really excited to see that they also defined ed tech not only as A, which is, you know, technology that's designed for educational use, but also B, which is where I've found myself focusing, general technologies that are widely used in educational settings, because I do feel like the ways that, you know, that AI has been developed, so much of it is developed for not the education use case. And so I think it's interesting to look at uh what is going on with AI outside of the classroom to understand what could happen with AI in the classroom. Um, so one of um, the the main points, like one of the main issues related to education and AI that came up in the different reports that I was reading was this race against time. And it's clear that we all know how quickly AI develops, but even just between like the beginning work on a report where they were having focus groups to the report being published, it you have like huge jumps in what is happening in AI. So it's kind of like as soon as you're writing about it, something else is happening. And I think that given that um the education systems and the government systems are not particularly fast paced on these types of policy writing, with of course some exceptions, but it is this is a trend that was coming up in a lot of the reading. Is just like it's really difficult for policy to keep up. And I will just quickly show. So this is the article that the report that I read that was put out by the Office of Educational Technology. I did my task 4 on it and then wove it into task 5. Um, and then another report that I pulled up that I really highly recommend that you all look into is this report that was uh, commissioned by the U.S. Department of State, about like the risks of AI. And it was put out it was requested in 2022, right before ChatGPT was released. And then it was then and then now it's been released and it was prepared by Gladstone AI. It's pretty terrifying, to be honest. And it talks about this concept of catastrophic risk, which is human extinction. And it is, I think, worth I think it's just worth sort of seeing what the like security concerns are. What I mean, people talk kind of um about how, oh, like robots are going to take over, robots are going to replace us and all this stuff. And I think it's easy to kind of brush off some of the security concerns related to AI because it feels so abstract, and that's something I'll talk about in a second. But just in this report as well, they talk about how one of the main issues is lack of understanding of AI. And that is sorry, that is another thing that I looked at here, which is AI is, and these models are thought of as black boxes, and there's on the one hand, just there's a lack of understanding, but also it seems like there's sort of a there's deliberateness around it being obscured, and this concept of AI being and AI models being sort of like magical truth tellers, like be so, knowing so beyond humans, means that sometimes they're not investigated, and what the models are actually doing is not looked at. So I think in a different sources I was reading, it's clear that that there's onus, they'll talk about, like teachers need to understand this before they put, they need to understand what models they're using before they put it in the classroom. But I think that it's far more important I mean, yes, obviously that, but I think it's not fair to put this amount of the onus on individuals. And I think what's clear is there needs to be a certain amount of policy work happening. And that, the fact that it's being obscured and it is being treated as a black box is something that is, you can't just push on to teachers to, specifically K through 12 teachers. There was a lot of focus on professional development, but at some point it's just, I think, unfair to be putting all the onus on the individual. And I think that similarly, in terms of data privacy, I was looking at the reports about courseware and the Chronicle of Higher Education. They did an investigation into courseware and saw that Pearson was actually leaking student data, and it just brings up these issues around data privacy when it comes to third-party systems being brought into the classroom. And I think there are a lot of issues around consent and data usage, because there's, again, this onus put on the individual to read long, complex privacy statements, which ultimately end up being vague, and then sometimes those privacy statements are, because the model's not being looked at, they're just, you're not even fully consenting to the right thing. And I think that another issue with consent is that if students are forced by instructors to use a certain courseware for a particular class, or not be able to take the class, then is that really consent if they're being forced to take it? But again, I think there's a lot of, then sometimes the blame can shift onto the instructors, and I just don't think that is fair or reasonable, given just how obscured the information is. And then I did, something that's been coming up is this concept of context, and that humans are good at understanding context, but AI is at this moment in time quite bad at understanding context, and can be very correct in one context, and the minute the context changes is completely wrong. And there's a lot of potential for great harm caused by that. Understanding context in terms of differences in students, different contexts of student like life situations, different settings of that they're doing things in. A lot of the recommendations that are coming out of reports is, AI has to be better at context, and humans have to be in the loop to before they need to be the ones making decisions, that you cannot just have AI as the final decision maker. But I did also want to go further into this concept of context, and note that part of the reason that these issues I think are so relevant is due to the historical context and where we are right now. I brought up in my paper that when it comes, some of these models and there are suggestions made about, you can have um, a recording made of a teacher in the classroom and then put that through the AI model to then have the output be professional development recommendations, or to note, oh, this is how many students participated, this is who didn't participate. And I think that level of possible surveillance is a real issue, particularly given and I used for the example of anti-LGBTQ legislation. This is Equality Federation, they great organization, and they have a tracker of state legislation, and specifically related to education and schools. There are a total of 151 anti-LGBTQ um, active pieces of legislation. And some of these include like not being able to, the instructor not being able to speak about sexual orientation or gender identity, or like anything that is related to, LGBTQ topics. There are some that require outing of kids to their parents. And that's the kind of thing where if you might have well-intentioned surveillance in the classroom, but the minute you have, new leadership in the school that that can cause that's all of a sudden you have the potential to cause a lot of harm to those data subjects. And the so the last point is really on algorithmic bias. And one example that I found was a program called Project Lavender. And I think that this comes up a lot in what I was reading about the issues related to ed tech in schools and AI, is that there's all this potential for algorithmic bias. So you have because the humans that humans build AI, and so the human biases can be built in. If you're including demographic data, there are situations when AI can sort of favor demographic data over other data points, and like reinforce biases. So it's like paying attention to that is so important. And that's why the decision making has to be left to humans. And I did think that I thought, it's not an ed tech example necessarily, but I do think this is a really, important issue related to AI and the potential for misuse, and the ways that humans have this over reliance on it, or the tendency to allow it to be the final decision maker. And so I tied that to Project Lavender, which is it's built and used by the Israeli army, and has been it was implemented at the beginning of the war on Gaza, and is there's a great report that I can drop the link to, including sources from active military, who were explaining that there was little to no human oversight when it came to decision making, and that there was a known 10% margin of error. So, and this was used to identify individuals to be killed. And so it was known to output individuals with only loose or no known connection to military groups. So it was built on surveillance data
That has to
because
be one of the most horrible uses of AI that we can think of.
yeah,
It's actually the nightmare, that we all have in the back of our minds, when we talk about AI. I'm sorry,
oh yeah, absolutely. And I promise after I get through this, I will pause and we can talk. I realize I've just been going nonstop. Um, so yeah, I agree. I think that something that came to mind while I was reading about Project Lavender is that it shows that, you know, I think there's a lot of fear about AI being used, like AI, the robots are gonna like, the robots are gonna gain sentience and then they're gonna take us over. And I
right.
think it's more terrifying what humans will do to other humans with AI.
Sure.
So I think that's where I feel most concerned. Um, and so to pull back the curtain on the model, because they were able to use surveillance data, um, characteristics of known operatives, so like known terrorists were used to then create a model which would identify those characteristics in the general population. So a characteristic would be if someone is in a WhatsApp group with someone who is already identified to be a known operative, if someone is changing their addresses often or changing their cell phones often, and then citizens were ranked from 1 to 100 based on how likely they were to be to how much they were matching these characteristics, and then it's established that it was known to flag people who had the same name or someone who had similar communication patterns, because there are plenty of reasons for someone to be changing cell phones often or changing addresses or just being in a WhatsApp group. And there's also another like in tandem with Project Lavender is was another one called Where's Daddy. It the Project Lavender established who would be attacked, Where's Daddy addresses where the attacks would occur, and because the surveillance data that they had allowed them to know where individuals' homes were, their family homes were, with Where's Daddy and Project Lavender, the models would identify when someone was entering their family home. So we all know that there have been huge, massive amounts of civilian casualties, and the sources report that this is likely part of the reason why is because the like timing of attacks was meant to correspond to when someone was entering their family home. So there would be a lot of other family members present. Another sort of chilling statistic is that, or chilling fact is that there were sometimes delays, and so there are times where the target would not be even in their family home, but the family home would still be identified, and so like whole families would be killed without the target present. So that's uh it's a quite terrible topic, and I it was difficult to write about, it was difficult to read about, and um I think it's so important in our work to be exploring like like all the things that um that technology is being used for and could be used for, because I do think it comes down to the humans that are that are using it. But I also think that what I have come across is that the more that we can like actually look at what these models are using and the data that they're using, how they're built, who builds them, that like that is how we can actually you know, make change to make sure that, you know, hopefully this is not continuing to happen.
Right, well said. Can you go back to the map briefly, just the legislative map that you had up there?
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't get a chance to really,
Yeah, of course. So
it was quick.
yeah, so this is specifically this is a quality federation. They are tracking all the anti-LGBTQ legislation, and what you can do if you're here, go to state legislation, and I just went to education in schools. So you can see
What's the key here? What's darker mean? What's lighter mean?
darker means a lot more anti-LGBTQ bills. So like Missouri has 15.
Bills passed or bills in review?
Well, that's a great question. So there are some that it clarifies like in the name of the bill where it's at. I think here's an example of
Okay, that makes okay.
it goes in committee, crossed over, passed.
So it means bills in process or passed. It means
Yeah,
both.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Be kind of
Yeah.
interesting to compare one that's in process to those actually passed in the maps. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, that's a great point.
Go back to the map again. I want to see the map. I'm still
Yeah, of course.
processing the map. Okay. So how does Indiana fare there with the light blue? Is that, I mean, you would think that Texas would be a lot darker than it is, given what we hear coming out of Texas, but
Yeah.
maybe.
It could be that the legislative session, something to do with the timing of it.
Right. Okay.
It's good to see that. Well, and actually, these are just education in school. So if we go to,
Oh, right. Oh, because it's only school, right?
yeah, but you're still right. Texas is 0, so that's a little, unexpected.
Whereas North Carolina was 0 at the schools, but it is
Yeah.
for this other. Okay, so it's changed.
Yeah.
The colors changed. Okay,
But
I just wanted to get another look at this map
yeah,
because I guess I'll see it in
that's
your
a great
paper.
point.
Okay, so why don't you
Oh, I
take
didn't
off
put the
this-
map in my paper, so
Okay, well, you can send me that too. So
yeah.
you can take off the sharing here, see if anyone has any questions, comments. It's really a detailed presentation, MJ. Well said, well thought up, very thoughtful. Any other comments?
I'll also drop some of the links that oh, and then just to Reza, to your point, I just am looking at some of the comments. I don't think that AI is against the LGBTQ population. I think that's a great question. I think that what I was trying to draw a correlation to was that if you have surveillance of classrooms and like you have AI recording, I mean, if you're using surveillance of classrooms and then you have AI like being trained, the models being trained to, you could train the model to say, pick up on anyone who says that says what their pronouns are. And then if the teacher, like it would just add a layer of um of danger, I guess, to those involved.
Other comments or questions? Yeah, Amelia.
I was wondering on that same note, couldn't it be trained for good? Couldn't it identify teachers that are making comments that aren't good? And also humans come with bias, and I almost think it's potentially we could program bias out in AI, but programming bias out of humans that don't acknowledge it seems harder. So 2 points on that.
Thank you for giving me an optimistic moment because I feel like I've been in the depth of how AI could be bad. So I think you're absolutely right. I think that ultimately AI is as good and as bad as humans want it to be. And um, I think if we can use it for good, then good things can happen.
But
Anna.
humans are fundamentally using it for bad, which brings us into the dark side of AI, which I really thought that your presentation really put us full circle, because I tend to be the optimistic, and I like that you came in with really good research and statistics and a kind of mind-blowing, like this is also happening in AI. So I really appreciate your presentation, MJ.
Thank you, Amelia.
Anna has a comment.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, MJ. The presentation was spectacular, and I really appreciate, sort of knowing that AI is, that these efforts are going on, that AI is a part of it, because I was not aware of much of this. So thank you. And it makes me think of all of the other areas in which AI is, making these sorts of decisions or affecting our lives. I mean, like I don't know what year, for instance, credit scores became a thing, but I want to say it was maybe in the 80s. And previous to that, there wasn't such a thing as a credit score that determined whether you could get a loan or that sort of thing. And not that that's necessarily AI, but it is certainly data together, or putting together. And now I think that AI is coming into the picture for things like in my job. We're given analytics on how thousands and thousands of students are doing. So these are people that, nobody's having a conversation with them every day about how they're doing in their classes, but they use certain metrics like, are they attending or are they turning in work? And it would be good if there was more of a human aspect to all of this. For instance, we've asked instructors to please submit alerts, if they're concerned about a student. But a lot of it ends up coming, with things like GPAs at the end of the semester when things are just sort of too late. And then it also is determined by what are you measuring? Is it just GPA, or is it the fact that a student is going far into debt and they may be in danger because of that, or, so many other factors. So I feel like increasingly, people are being asked to make decisions based on data and conclusions from that data that come from AI, that aren't as dire as, for instance, are we going to bomb someone's house? But still, it ends up being up to humans to have to take action based on what they're given from AI. And even in day-to-day smaller decisions, like, am I going to bring a student into my office and talk to them about their grades? That seems to be a kind of a strange decision sometimes.
Anna, I'm not sure if after you presented, we clapped for you. I'm just a little bit
Oh.
fuzzy tonight. And I don't think we did. So Anna, a little thank you for presenting.
Well, and
tonight.
I'm going to clap for MJ at the same time.
And
Really...
after that, we're leading up to her. So MJ did a fabulous presentation. So MJ and all, I'm not sure if Risa had shared a screen because he wanted to share something with us. But
I wanted first give thank MJ because of his engaging title, Dark Side of the AI, and also the dark background that he has chosen for it. And also, I wanted to borrow the pessimistic glasses of MJ, and I wanted to share something along his words. I don't know if you saw my introduction of that Word document or not.
Yeah, I saw, I read some of that. Yeah.
So I just wanted to read this part.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like this interpretation of the authors of this article. I mean, your article, which they compare emerging learning technologies with wave and classifying the waves as extended, connected, and repeated. When I first, it was at the beginning of the semester that I read this sentence. I had an analogy, I have my own analogy. Wave can be in different forms: mechanical, electromagnetic, progressive, and standing, useful and detrimental. We can harness any wave and exploit it, like using wave in communication or producing electricity, and at the same time can harm us, like cancer, which is caused by being exposed to high level of wave intensity, or in the case of like tsunami. In the following text, I try to elaborate on the challenges and issues. Something I wanted to say that all of the people, they just talk about the positive side of learning technologies, you know. I think that learning technologies, they have, as MJ said, they have the dark side, or in my opinion, they have the negative impact as well. And learning technologies, they are getting the spirit of education. And let's see, I can share something. I have shared with you. I thought you have read this one, but I guess you haven't. Why I cannot wait? Sorry, I want to share something else. And this is one activity of our class. You know, I asked the student to convert these numbers into binary code and color these cells by hand, just using their hand. And this one, let's see, I can show you or not. Can you see this? This is the final image. Some of the students who they colored this image cells by hand, they were very excited. One of them, they told me, I want to stick it on our fridge at our home, you know. When I was teaching this in my class, I used paint. Let's see, I can't find it. I want to say that sometimes it's better to allow the students not use the technology. Sometimes the traditional teaching might overweigh the using technology. In my opinion, education has a spirit. Sometimes learning technologies, they get the spirit of education. Education is an interaction between human and human. Sometimes learning technologies, they hurt this interaction. That was my opinion. Sorry.
No, thank you for that. Actually, tonight I posted something very similar. If you could stop sharing, I'll share my screen. If I can, I just found it. So let's see if I can get it up here and show it. So Yusra had a post that she asked either ChatGPT, she said, I'm using my questions in the human discussion to share and embrace demographic and location diversity, creating an Instagram-based inclusive learning community. And she asked ChatGPT to list out some opportunities, but it had a lot of concerns, a lot of challenges, a lot of issues that ChatGPT raised. Really nice about this balance. And as you said, Riza, oftentimes we just hear about the positive things of technology. So my response was, as I read her answer, I was struck by the balance. I'm a cautious educational technology advocate. I'm cautiously optimistic. This is what I get from the above lists. I think such lists keep us a bit more grounded. Yes, ed tech offers the world greater access and definitely more inclusion, and perhaps can even address equity concerns around the world, but it comes with risks to learner, to users, personal privacy, information privacy, that ultimately impair one's identity. EdTech comes with unknown and unknowable costs, such as freemium models, where initially it's free to get you in, and then there are the costs. Or there are technology specification issues that you must have to have in order to address and use it, and that may be out of the reach of millions, multi-millions of potential users of that technology tool. Added to that, you have training and professional development needs for both the learners and the teachers. So while Instagram-based inclusive learning environments may be the goals and some possible, there are all sorts of restrictions and limitations. Who benefits, at what cost, and for what purpose? These are among the many questions that I have. So I did post, I think it's almost the exact same thing early, about a couple hours ago. So I'm with you, Riza. I understand where you're coming from. And that's I went back to week 13. If you're looking for that post, that's in the AI augmented week 13. I was in all 3 weeks, 13, 14, 15 tonight. Again, MJ, thank you for raising some issues that we weren't raising earlier. Maybe we could have almost had a first half of class in Zoom sessions on the positive side of the force here, and then the second half on some of the concerns, restrictions, limitations on, maybe that's why I have to create the course theme maybe next year at this time. I think Bo is the last one. We've gone kind of long, Bo. And so not
I
the
can talk
long,
fast.
not the long bow and arrow, but the long. It's so yeah. If you've got something to show us and enlighten us, please do that. And then we'll take some questions and probably call it a night.
Yeah. I am going to share a little bit about how I used Claude this past week.
So let me stop here. That Claudio is using Claude. So everyone should have their own AI bot named after them. So I will say that we're using Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, ChatPDF, Copilot. It's quite a wide range of things that are being used in this class. No, that's really enlightening to me to see what people. It's beyond that.
Well, Claude had beaten out GPT-4 in some of the latest benchmark testings.
Right.
So I wanted to give it a shot and see what it could do.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a P674 right now, which is a AI and K-12 education course. And we're kind of tasked right now with developing some type of a product where it would support teachers in the K-12 space in recognizing how they could utilize AI for teaching and learning purposes. And so I wanted to create the shell of the website, at least using AI. And I hadn't really had an intention to do this yet, but I came across an interesting thing that really helped me. When I was working through my initial prompt for this, I told it that I wanted it to ask me some questions based on what I want the site structure to look like. And so it did a really nice job. It didn't jump into generating any HTML or CSS. It asked those questions first, and it allowed me to respond. And really, it did a nice job of navigating what I wanted and what I was looking for based on those questions that it came up with. So the initial output for this, I told my wife I was really excited. It took me 40 minutes to create the entire site pretty much, at least the shell of it. I don't have all the content in yet. But this was the basic structure for the first page that it generated for me. And then it drilled down to the CSS, provided a small JavaScript file as well. And before I show you what the final version of it looks like, I'll do a new share here. I brought this into VS Code then, and I don't have like an extensive amount of HTML or CSS knowledge, but I've got enough where I can be a little bit dangerous if I've got something to start with. And it structured it so well for me. I was really impressed with just the formatting of everything. My final Java or my final CSS file. This was really nice because as I continued to build out the pages and the different elements that I was looking for, I would add different pieces of CS in here, and then it got a little messy. And so what I did was I went back and I prompted it to regenerate the cumulative amount of CSS code that it had produced so far for me. And it did it, and it completely reorganized it. I copied and pasted that into VS Code here. And now I don't have any duplicate coding sets or anything like that. And it's all structured just like I wanted it to be. So turned out pretty well. Then here's our original index page for it. The only thing that we really need to consider then is what your file structure would look like and how you're going to house all of your HTML and CSS files. And so I knew enough to get that all set up properly. But then the final structure of this, looks like. Let's see here. Oh, I think I'm on the whole desktop. Sorry, wrong page there. I've got a lot of windows open right now.
I will say.
Let's see here. There we go. And so it even put in some navigation functionality for me. And I feel like if I, was to go back into like the web school or Web3 school or whatever the HTML site is, and explore more of the just some of the styles that you can drop into your style sheets, I could probably make it do a lot more. But for that amount of time, I even had ChatGPT generate the icon for me up top, and I just had to convert that into a PNG file for this. So it was a really decent, way to start things and make it a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more exciting for me than just doing like a Google site or something like that for my class. So yeah.
Thank you, Bo. Any comments on what Bo presented?
I can jump in. I think that's amazing. And the little bug inside my ear right now, I'm thinking my project was around W200, which if you're familiar with IU is the Using Computers in Education class. And we've been thinking about ways to integrate AI and they create portfolios. And I was just thinking how cool it would be if we created a tutorial that gave our students an option of using AI to generate the shell for their portfolio and then they fill it in. I just think that's amazing and would love to learn more about how you did that.
That would be, I mean, I might be able to copy like the entire prompt process and share that with you.
That would be amazing.
Let's see. Oh, one other thing that I did find out, I'm sorry, I didn't mention this earlier. Let me share the screen one more time here. This was actually the reason I was interested in using Claude for this as well. I'd read online, one of the use cases for it is that you can do a screen grab of a website that you're kind of inspired by, bring that in here and have it kind of analyze the screenshot and then create the structure for the file based on what it sees as well. So that was a pretty cool use case there for it.
Elise, are you going to teach it next year?
I believe so.
Okay. There's a challenge then. Think
Yeah,
about
we'll
what
see. We'll see how many of these ideas I can get the co-teaching team to agree to.
Bo is only a text message away.
I was just going to say I'd be interested in the step-by-step of that too, Bo. This week I got the code for PowerPoints, and you can just copy paste that code into PowerPoint and it makes all your slides off your content. And I'm thinking what you did is a lot more in depth on that, but basically the same process. And I have like zero coding experience. I just followed a step-by-step.
That's pretty cool too. I'd be interested in checking that out. Yeah.
So all these mobile app developers are going to lose their jobs. Pretty much, hate to say it, but that's, they got these short training to learn Python programming and make six-figure salaries, but that's not going to last forever. Change is happening, especially in the computer science world.
I think our computer science professors would say that they're training them to fix the things that can't be done by AI.
That's the hope.
At least that was their answer to the parents of the incoming students who were worried about their kids getting jobs. So
okay. Yeah. Bo, any final comments?
No.
Claudio, any comments about Claude?
Yes, actually, it's I've been using that a lot, and I use that for planning curriculum, and I incorporate some curriculum like PDFs, reports, and I pay for Claude, so I can incorporate like some 4 PDFs. I use Chat PDF, but also 4 PDFs in Claude, and then graphics and everything. It creates all of that. And actually, in one of my projects, I didn't use Claude, but I took a MOOC that it was about UX design, that it was about creating the interface for all of these websites by using some other AI tools. So that could be also something that, and it was like a lot of different AI models to create that, like, the graphics and also the color patterns and based on the logos and all of that. So yeah, I love Claude a lot. And my students think that I designed that. And I was like, yeah, sure.
You get the 20% off for naming rights.
Of course, yes.
And so, yeah. So you give your MOOC a thumbs up or a thumbs down in UX design, Claudio? Thumbs up, thumbs
Yes.
down. Okay.
Yes. I mean, I took like 3 of them. I got 2 certificates.
Okay.
from them.
Congratulations, everybody.
So I shared those, but I like the one that I took, that it was just 2 hours, but to be able to complete everything and step by step was like more than 8 hours, 10 hours. But I learned a lot from that one. It was really, really good.
Okay. We're getting some echo on your microphone, so you might want to mute your mic. For some reason, something's popping in your microphone. I'm not sure what it is. So for 30 seconds each, Jennifer, what was your final project and did you enjoy it?
I wrote papers. I did some MOOC wandering. I did not stick with one long enough for a certificate, but popped in and out of a
What
few.
were the MOOCs on what?
One was from University of Illinois, Coursera, and another was from Duke University, Coursera, and then I looked at one in the MIT Open Learning Library.
The topics.
Well, cognition and
Okay.
yeah. And then for the technology review, I wrote a lot about Camtasia and Snagit because I've been learning those for work lately. And then I threw in an app that I like iNaturalist, but there's a version for children that's got more privacy safeguards, and also to give children a place to play without while keeping the research quality of the data on iNaturalist. And so I took that for a spin around the garden, and it was interesting. So it's called Seek by iNaturalist. And basically it's augmented reality. So you put the app on your mobile device, you hold it up in front of a plant or an insect or a fungus, and it will identify it right there on. So it's kind of like having labels pop up in your magnifying glass. If you think of the old school naturalist wandering around, like, what's this bug or whatnot. And so it's got that instant gratification. I could see it being really helpful. I did a school garden project last semester, and I could see that being really helpful for teachers who maybe are enthusiastic in taking on that project, but maybe don't have all the plant knowledge, just to have that ID capability in their pocket. So
very good. If you could put the way to spell Seek and the other names in the chat so we know what you're talking about. Can we also hear what the final project was from Amelia?
I wrote a paper on integrating AI into my classrooms because I felt like it just came on educators, but we really didn't need it. We didn't think we needed it. So I wanted to get the perspectives of my students, what they thought with AI integration in the classroom. And then on the same topic of AI, I read the book that you recommended, A Brief History of AI, and one that Bo recommended, Co-Intelligence. And I put together a reverse timeline of how we got to where we are with the release of ChatGPT. And the timeline template, which I used, only allowed me to either add a video or text. So most of them are just YouTube videos explaining all the concepts and key moments that got us to where we are today.
Very good. Thank you. I'm glad you read the Brief History of AI book. It's a good book. This guy's really bright. You know, people are going, why are you writing such a basic book? You're the leader of the field. Well, we need the leaders of the field writing the basic books so we can all understand it, you know. It's an audiobook format, and I think he reads it. So he's a British gentleman. He's got a good voice, interesting to listen to. Highly recommend it. You know, it's not going to set the world on fire, but it'll give you some basics, you know, so you understand where we came from. There are other ones. Machines of Loving Grace gives you the history of the computing field as a whole. I think that's a better book. That came out maybe 10 years ago now, a New York Times writer. I really enjoyed that one. I wrote a book review on that one. Machines of Loving Grace. It goes you back to the 1800s with Charles Babbage and Lady Lovelace, and yeah, computational thinking. Start. Elise, did you talk about your final project in here? Did we hear? What?
Not, I mean, I just briefly mentioned it.
Okay, what is it?
But like I mentioned, I teach the technology integration course for pre-service teachers at IU here. And I found that this course felt like a graduate level. In some ways, it's a little different, but it felt very similar to a graduate level version of what I was doing. And so I wanted to see how I could apply many of the things that I'd learned from this class into my own teaching practice in W200. And so I took a deep dive into a little bit more about teaching technology integration to pre-service teachers. And it was very interesting because I changed a few things. I redid the syllabus. So I changed a few things about the course, changed some assignments, added some readings. But then I also, through the literature, was able to identify things that the course does really well, and why I decided to keep some of those good practices or change certain things.
And you're changed the syllabus and you're alive to tell us about it, because people aren't allowed to change that syllabus.
Yeah, that's why I did it for your class. And I was like, no one's going to let me implement any of these things.
Okay, that explains it. I was kind of worried about you. I wanted to see if your hands were red from somebody, with a ruler, like the nuns used to do to me. So the only way, I think Risa mentioned his project briefly. Is there anything you want to add to what you've already mentioned, Risa?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
For my task 4, I talked about Scratch, quizzes, and PhET. Scratch is new for me, but I really enjoyed working with it since it's a type of block-based programming or coding. I talked about them, and for task 5, I talked about the challenges of learning technologies.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and also, as I said, if I am to do a study in learning technology, maybe I would investigate the humanitarian aspect of learning technology. Let's see, I better to how to maintain the positive spirit of education and preserve the essential human interaction between learners and educators in the digital age.
Thank you.
If I wanted to do anything in learning technology, I would pick this one. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 5 visiting scholars. Would 1 or 2 of them like to have the last comment on what they got out of this semester? And by the way, we're going to have class on Wednesday, or a Zoom session Wednesday, but I'm assuming a lot of you will not be here. But anyone's welcome. We're going to start at 5. We're going to talk to my old friend David Cutler, who's a high school teacher in history and many other things. He's a writing expert out east at a kind of a private school. And he's going to talk about AI and how they're using AI in K-12 schools, which we haven't talked about this semester. So since he wrote me, I thought I'd invite him back in. Does Jill, Alicia, Sung-hee, Lena, or Sumin want to say anything before we depart? 1 or 2 of you? Jill.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for thank you, Dr. Bong, and everyone, each one of you, because in this course, I have learned a lot by reading all the special issues of the journals, and I see a lot of articles from diverse perspective, because in Taiwan, we only focus on probably the domains that we really, I mean, our dissertation is focused on. So we have fewer chances to see a lot of papers from multiple perspectives. So I've learned a lot, and I really enjoy discussing all the issues with you. So the interaction that matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Sung-hee put her camera on, so Sung-hee, you wanted to say something, I assume.
Yes, thank you for all presentation today. Actually, I learned a lot today, and I just think about teaching strategy in one class. But today, I think about culture and environment, learning environment, and technology. I think a lot. So thank you for presentation. Yes.
I think we have thought a lot. Bo made us think, MJ made us think, Claudia, we've all helped each other think in here, especially today. Sumin, you're the latest entry into this class. You arrived recently. Is there anything that you've picked up on you want to mention from sitting in the last few weeks?
So today is the student presentation. So, and I listened carefully and I gained a lot of insights. So thank you, Dr. Bong, and everyone for your hard work this semester. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I can visit you at Seoul National University someday. And we haven't heard from Alicia.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just have a quick dinner just now. Okay. Thank you for the insightful and engaging seminars, and especially today, and all the wonderful, great presentations. I truly enjoy each section, and I'm looking forward to learning more under your guidance, Dr. Bang's guidance, and also all of our dear students. Okay, thank you.
I'm just curious before we let Lena end, how many of you are planning, anyone planning to come Wednesday? Or is it just going to be me? Is anyone else joining me? Bo and me, Alicia, Lena. Great. Oh, Sumin. Okay, so we'll have some people. Lena, last comment.
Okay, I don't have I have any words to say because they all give the statement about my comment. But yeah, I'd like to emphasize that so today, I think for me, I learned a lot of different new perspectives. Maybe before I didn't expect that I can, think about AI or those technology in education in so many different perspective or different insight source. So thank you all for today's very excellent presentations. And thanks to Dr. Bunk for your course for this semester. I really learned a lot. Thank you.
MJ, what's the name of your cat or both cats?
This is Finn and Leo is somewhere else.
Okay. So I want to thank all of you for coming in, especially this week 15 or 14, whatever, it's near the end of the semester, you're working on final projects, you're probably really tired from finishing a couple of them, and you still got 1 or 2 left to finish for other classes. So I have high respect for someone who can multitask like that and come in here smiling. Thank you all for coming in smiling and sharing and seriously thinking and pondering about the implications of these educational technologies, both the restrictive side, the dangerous side, as well as the optimistic side, the opportunistic side. It's both. It's always going to probably be both, at least in this current environment that we're all situated in with limited resources, to think about who's going to use them, how they're going to be used, when they're going to be used, how we can multiply them, hopefully, or make best use or most efficient use of these educational technology, and not just the technologies, but the curriculum itself and the emotional side of the people coming in, sharing with, within that. So I'll just say thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Everyone wave. Maybe we can do the wave. Oh, Bo. Okay, thanks, everyone. You guys have all great night. I'm going to stop the recording at this point. Week 15 or 14, whatever it is, R678, spring of 2024. Thank you.